Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies and the characters that make us feel seen. And we have a co-host with us today who wrote one of the most fascinating, really dazzling movies of the past 10 years. She is an Academy Award nominee for her work on that film, May December, directed by Todd Haynes. And her new film, Late Fame, stars such fantastic figures as Willem, Dafoe, and Greta Lee. And what else do the people need to know about you before we get started? Samy Burch.
I don't know. That's a really nice introduction. Thank you.
Isn't that like because I know a bit about your biography that I read, like went to school for screenwriting, but your mom's a casting director, you've worked in casting direction. It's funny looking at like your IMDb where like just when like the highlights come up, it's like Mockingjay, May December, and it doesn't like you don't like get the detail of like how those things are aligned in your career. Just like those are some highlights. But
I've been asked questions as if I cast all of the Hunger Games films when I was the local casting assistant in North Carolina, though that was so fun and very challenging work.
Of course.
But yeah, that is, I think, it's hard to imagine anything will ever be higher up on the star meter than the Hunger Games.
Yeah, like SEO, that SEO battle feels like it's a little bit undefeatable. But again, Academy Award nominee for May December. One of the things that I guess I wanted to like start with the conversation of like coming into screenwriting, not necessarily circuitously, but you were doing you trained for this thing in school, then you kind of do other things and you're writing in the background. I read that you wrote May December as like, I just wanted to get an agent. And, but like, so now with this new feature coming out and obviously with May December behind you, worked with some real titans, reading your words. And I guess I just kind of wanted to start with the feeling of through the grind and the aspiration of screenwriting and the gosh, I just want to get a rep. And then the sensation of watching it come to life with some of our greatest working actors across multiple generations. And like what that does for the continued writing, like what that does to expand your imagination as you go on to write more screenplays when you see the way that it can be embodied by certain performers.
I mean, it's been a really lucky, it really has been a wild, I felt like I did skip a bunch of steps that normally you have a few independents or things that with actors that you don't, that was skipped. And to go right to being like, sitting in Julianne Moore's trailer being like, hello, nice to meet you. I mean, the kindest, amazing person, but of course one can't help but be nervous at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was always writing from high school on. I always was writing any time I could. I always had a project going. And I certainly, every script I wrote was to get an agent. I didn't know it was going to be that one. That just happened to be the one that hit. It is really hard to get representation. And I always felt that there was this, I could see it with my friends, I'm friends with a lot of comedians that, once you get signed, you have this kind of badge that there was a curtain that opens and then you're on the other side of it. And that was 1,000% true. Where once your script can go through into the machine, it can go into the process where people are reading it. It's life-changing. And happened to be very lucky for me. And then with Late Fame, I wrote Late Fame, which is an adaptation of a novella from 1895 that's been modernized by Arthur Schnitzler. It was written, it took years where I was outlining it and thinking about it, but I wrote it in the period between when May December had shot, the fall of 2022, and before it premiered at Cannes. So there was this, it was still a very hypothetical time.
Totally.
And I was not bogged down by any pressure that maybe I have since felt. It also was a very lucky kind of coming together where I had mentioned it to Killer Films, Christine Vachon and Pam Koffler, who did May December, who just done all of Todd's films. And it was right at, in this exciting time of going to festivals with the movie and it premiering that they said, we would love to do this one too. And then Kent Jones was a director and writer I really love and respect. And he came on, and then Willem, and just it's crazy. It really is crazy. Yeah.
Well, and so tell us a bit more specifically about Late Fame. Tell the folks at home about Late Fame.
Okay, so Late Fame. So Arthur Schnitzler is an Austrian, one of the great writers. He also wrote a novella that then became the film for Eyes Wide Shut. So might be notable. But it's a satire, really. It's about a man who had written a book of poetry when he was young in this very vibrant arts community. It's initially in Vienna. It's in the film, it's in New York. So it's sort of like someone who in the 70s was involved in Soho and this art scene, and gave it up and is working for the post office. And at the very beginning,
Great government benefits. Great government benefits at the post office.
Rent control department, and is approached by this group of, sort of lofty boys who have discovered this book in a used pile and are like, you're a genius and we want to treat you as such. And so it's really about ego and longing for what it means to be an artist, maybe in your spirit, what it actually means right now in a city, who gets to do it, who's working hard, who's not. I don't know. It's definitely a character piece. And Willem Dafoe, I'm in another situation with actors where you feel ridiculous giving compliments because cat's out of the bag. Everyone knows that Willem Dafoe is just an unbelievable, indescribable actor. And he gives such a sort of tender, delicate performance where so much of the story is really about how he's feeling about himself, his self-esteem, how he's feeling about himself in the moment or his career. And Greta Lee is just an electric presence in the movie as a kind of very theatrical actress who's sort of performing her life. And it was just I fell in love with the novella, and I wanted to try and capture what I felt reading it.
Okay, well, I think the perfect bridge within that is like the notion of like the life of the artist and the young artist at one time and their life going in a direction like unpredictable. For the movie, one of the main movie that you brought for us to discuss today, came out in a millennial era, but I would say Gen X classic.
Yeah.
Ghost World.
Yeah.
And its heroine, Thora Birch. Tell us about your relationship with Ghost World, and very importantly, how old you were when you first, and maybe it was the comic, maybe that was your first exposure, or maybe it was the movie.
No, I'm a poser. I just saw the movie. I think I own
100% same. 100% same.
I would have been. I was trying to think, did I see it in theaters or was it a Blockbuster thing? But it was around, I would have been around 13, 14. The perfect time to see. Yeah, when I saw it the first time. And it was very prevalent, middle school, high school. I watched it a ton. And I then didn't see it for many years. I rewatched it for this. I hadn't seen it in like 15 or 20, I don't know, a lot of years, because part of me was scared that it wasn't going to live up to what I loved about it. But then I thought, I actually think this is an even better movie than I thought it was. The tone is people try to do that now, or since. I think Terry Zwigoff, it's such a great, funny tone that's obviously heightened. You can feel Daniel Close's the comic element.
Yeah.
But there's such humanity to it as well. And I think that is everyone should see. I just saw it got put up on Criterion like this month, so this is good timing. Everyone should watch Ghost World if they haven't.
I remember watching this one, and in my mind, they're a spiritual two-pack. They're an emotional double feature. Welcome to the Dollhouse, Ghost World.
Yeah, I love that.
Two movies that I remember like watching them. Those were HBO watches for me. Like the HBO watches at home, like in my teens for sure. And I remember like they both made me so uncomfortable with how unkind people were that I like rejected them upon like my first watches. And now like to your point of saying, gosh, is this even better after all these years? As a newly 41-year-old, I was like, oh, I can finally actually, it's like I was too close as the age of the protagonists at the time to like, it was just like, I don't want to know these girls in school. And so I like couldn't access it. And now to see it like it feels so reality bites. It feels so like that it came out in 2001 is almost a crazy thing about it because it feels so 90s. Yeah. But I were you very much connecting personally to Enid, to Thora Birch in this story?
I mean, I think this is an interesting question for a podcast. I have struggled thinking of actually. I feel like it's easier to feel seen in the relationships of the films for me, sure. Of, you know, as a daughter, I definitely was in a very intense twosome. So I think that is part of the movie is like, I definitely felt that friendship or that kind of two against the world feeling. I think, yeah, for Enid, I don't know if I was ever as provocative.
Yeah, bringing the racist marketing art into her summer seminar class. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I was doing that, but I think there was. I mean, I grew up in LA in a time. I mean, I guess I think of, you know, Entourage, The Hills, a time of a lot of bullshit. I mean, I'm sure it's only gotten worse. I feel so horrible for everyone after, you know, every year seems, I'm sure, worse to be growing up. But it was easy to see the bullshit around, you know, so I'm sure I felt that in a way. And I also think, I mean, truly, I think it's the dynamic with Steve Buscemi, which may be one of the, like, to me, most appealing characters in in all of film. He is so wonderful. I'm sure that's divisive, but I don't
know. I think he is just canonically one of our greats. Oh, and there's I absolutely know a vibrant contingent of Steve Buscemi sex idol.
In general, for sure. In this in particular, I think that dynamic, obviously it's complicated. I think, but that friendship, that kind of inclination to, you know, like her draw into the world with all of those men collecting records and merchandise. I really feel that I relate to that for sure.
Well, and I think like in the way that you mentioned, like, you know, movies, like any things trying to attempt a tone like this, where it's really hard to stick the landing on the way. And it's just like the summary of this movie is that it's the story of a pair of friends right as they graduate high school. And they're figuring shit out. Like, that's just like the log line and sort of like the people they're meeting along the way, and they're really disaffected. They're often cruel. Enid seems to really actually not want to feel anything genuinely, so she pushes away the notion of any positive feeling, and she hurts people, and she finds joy in that, but you can feel the hurt in her, and to the point of like the passage of time in this movie, you know, perhaps even improving upon later watches. I feel I agree with you on that. The depiction of this, essentially, one hopes, 18-year-old girl after she's graduated high school, and Steve Buscemi, kind of like the platonic ideal of a middle-aged man, sort of, no matter when you see him. And the bond that they form, I feel like there are plenty of things you watch where there's like an age gap situation.
Yes.
And there's a cavalierness about it. There's a glibness to it. And I watched this and I didn't have like, scrutinizing goggles on in that way, but I was so surprised by the end of the movie how tenderly I felt for that dynamic throughout in a way that didn't feel sullied about the way that we scrutinize those depictions today or we reconsider them. And I felt like it was a really genuine story between these two people in which I was like, I can absolutely see how they get to the point where they're making the decisions they are. Right. And it didn't feel like a cavalierness on behalf of the screenwriter or some like fetishistic thing. And I wanted to hear from your point of view as a screenwriter, that kind of challenging dynamic. And obviously having written complicated romantic, non-romantic dynamics in very, famous film that, brought you through the award circuit. I wanted to hear about the appeal of that or like the understanding of that or the call of that to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it works because they're bonded in a certain loneliness or isolation in the world. And I think her like affection for him or her it's genuine. And the power dynamics are complicated because he is, by every clue we get except for the lens, a loser, pathetic guy.
Sure, yeah.
So there's just a way that we have access to his spirit that I think we don't normally get. And I think because she is in this moment of such turmoil and figuring out how she wants to be in the world, like I think how she wants to see the world, that they don't feel like tropes. They don't feel, they don't feel like there's a specificity to it that I think allows for you to feel however you want. I mean, I don't know how. I'm sure there are plenty of people that would watch it with a scrutiny, and I'm obviously
for sure.
It's good that she left the apartment.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
It's still, I think it's about outlook. I think these characters, they feel like I think all of it really is voice. I think it's the two, and which I love about the movie is that it feels equally of the two authors. It's the Daniel, I don't know if it's Close or Klaus.
Klaus? I don't either. I kind of feel inclined toward Klaus.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. The coin is tossed.
I don't know, to be honest.
I don't either. I'm not. I don't have the definitive answer.
It feels like just a really nice, everything kind of working in a harmony, because you could see an adaptation of a movie like that being extremely broad. And even though there's broadness in some of the satire of the other people, it feels in service of the way that a young person can take in the world.
Producer Marissa chiming in says, looks like it is Cloud with an S in the end instead of a D. So Klaus. Daniel Klaus. Okay.
That makes sense.
There we go.
But so I think that's why it works to me as a screenplay. Because of course, they're very flippant, but as the film goes on, even the cruel joke that they play, I mean, that's the whole premise is kind of, let's get this lonely guy to show up to this diner. It's immediately, that's ripped away. There's an immediate connection she feels with him that then just continues to grow. And, he seems to represent something about, a choice of how you can live in this world or not.
Well, and into the terms of a twosome, perhaps an interdependency, perhaps codependency, perhaps something else. I'm very familiar with my teen era of that. How did the trajectory of, because this movie does such a good job with the melancholy of these two in tandem coming apart from each other.
Yeah.
in where their focuses are driving them or their lack of focus. And so how did it go for your twosome that this made you feel reminiscent of when you were like watching it as a teen?
You know, it's funny because as a teen, I was so I mean, one of my best friends, I'm happy to report we're still extremely close.
Amazing.
So, you know, we never had a real distance that this movie seems to suggest is about to happen to them. But I remember I always relate. Like I just rewatched Pen 15, which I think is brilliant. And you know, all of those depictions of like really intense adolescent female friendship. And I had a couple, you know, I feel like there was sort of a younger chapter and then a later high school different best friend that were always they're really intense. They're really forming, you know, there's a foundational quality to relationships like that are so lucky, I think. Obviously, you know, I'm sure there's a range, but I think when you really find someone like that at a time when you're discovering who you are, I mean, I was just extremely lucky as well with who I was.
I'm very glad to hear that. I had a string of, you know, the grand detonations, like the intensity that must lead to explosion, but a requisite experience, of course. But another thing as I was watching it in Enid in art class, her just like kind of batty, very high school art teacher. It's a summer session. She didn't fully graduate. She doesn't get her diploma because she got an F in art class, which also does seem to be the one thing she actually has like an organic interest in, like her drawing and her journaling and her like sort of visual diary she keeps. And there's a part where she's being condescended to for the contents of this diary and like the kind of cartoons and essentially comics she draws in them, and the teacher sort of glibly dismisses her as like, oh, you know, it's light entertainment. Like this is good for fun. And I feel like you can feel the authorship coming through of that. Like it feels like Daniel Clowes was told this in high school. And I was listening to you talk about May December, and a word that you used earlier to describe a couple characters in Late Fame was like lofty. And kind of like the loftiness of May December. And it like that movie, like I say this with the highest esteem possible, it feeling like the most artful Lifetime melodrama I have ever taken into my life. The slow push in to the piano stinger on the contemplative moment of We Don't Have Enough Hot Dogs by Julianne Moore. Like that is a kind of art that like through the execution of these masters is something so fine, but like we can see it, we see that kind of thing done in such broad strokes that gets dismissed by people as perhaps like a lowbrow when it's not like the highest caliber artists working today. And I wanted to hear about loftiness and writing that kind of like you talking too about something where like I think you mentioned at one point, like if there's not humor in something somewhere, I'm sort of like what are we even doing here? And I wanted to write about the dimension of something lofty or something that could be sort of like dismissed out of hand as like a women's picture too fluffy, and hear you talk on that and grounding it but also reveling in the fun of that kind of bigness.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, I think with I love those scenes of her in the art class and how clearly you can see the falseness that you know of people. I don't know. I mean, I certainly I think a lot of people could probably relate to that. And as you say, I think you can see a young Daniel Clowes in that room. I think that, I mean, it really also reminds in Late Fame. I think there's, I mean, that is, it's not really about necessarily these specific types of maybe underappreciated or types of work that's taken less seriously. But I think that when you get a bunch of young people together, I experienced that. I mean, I went to NYU in the screenwriting department where you are put in, from the beginning, you're given a little group of 10 and every day you guys are in classes and you're reading everyone's work, and it is so intense, just personality wise.
Yeah.
You know, because you become an ecosystem, and because of that, you're going to get divided. You're dividing yourselves a bit, and there was a lot of loftiness, I think, myself included. You know, I think that's just what happens when you have people who are young artists who care about something, who want to make something. You know, I think that certainly relates, or that comes to mind. Everything is execution, really. I tend to not be thinking maybe in those terms as far as only after the fact, you know, only in the rear view could I see maybe words that or ways in which someone could think of something as a women's picture, or ways in which certain things get put into categories because of who directed them versus not. But I think, yeah, I don't know if I'm ever approaching something from a bigger picture of genre like that, maybe. Yeah.
Well, and so you go into college for screenwriting, were you interested in this in high school then, presumably?
Oh yeah. I was writing the plays for my friend who was starring in them. I grew up in a very film-centric home because mom was, you know, especially in my early childhood, was really killing it with casting amazing films, big and like box office movies. You know, like there was like a line on Sunday you could call that was like Movie Phone that would tell you the numbers of the box office.
Yep.
Like that was like a memory that I had.
Yeah, it's called Movie Phone because it was literally
yeah, it was just like
phone. Like you literally called
this much money, and it'd be like, okay, good, you know, that kind of. There was this sort of practical filmmaking, being in production offices. Like I hung out way too much in those offices, and then my dad is a real cinephile that, you know, was one of those kids growing up in Dallas that is like sending away for silent film reels. You know, they exist. Like I don't know if it's reincarnation or what's going on with those kids, but he was like one of those that was, you know, obsessed with movies, came out here, you know, and my sister's diet of entertainment was very curated to like classic films and
interesting.
But then it's just so funny because my sister, you know, it's like it really does. It's kind of like plants grow to the light, or you know, like it's just interesting how things stick or don't. But so I kind of always grew up loving movies, interested in the practice of making them, and then plays. Yeah, that was just a great way to start with thinking about character and voice and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, what is like sort of some of the content of the early plays? What are you gravitating toward as a high school playwright?
Ridiculous. They're ridiculous. I mean, some of them. I also directed some of them that were like there was a female version of The Odd Couple that Samuel French put out. You know, so it was kind of like it was very Rushmore as well.
Got it.
One of the plays was it was a murder mystery in like the 30s. It was like in the theatrical scene. There was one that was really put a lot of different stories all over interwoven. There was a writer who was played by literally a 12-year-old girl that we found playing basically Steve Buscemi in Ghost World.
Wow.
Like sort of talking about all these different stories, and they were all very different. You know, there was a lot of things that are very, you know, I don't know that there's a through line, but it was a great just way to start. We would take over. We didn't do the plays with the school.
Okay.
That they were like, we're doing Sound of Music. Like there was one night a year that was where you could put on your own play, and we like dominated for 4 years by sheer will. Took those over, and that was really great. I mean, it really gave a structure to the year.
You're like, if we really anchored that event. No,
I
know
we're taking an hour. So sorry, but we have an hour-long play, so you know, but Kate and I, we infiltrated. There was a time, it is very Rushmore thinking back of like, we were running the film club. We founded the film club at the
All
school.
right.
We were running the theatrical society,
Uh-huh.
you know, like, I don't know why, like we shouldn't have been,
I don't know.
but, you know, that kind of, there was a lot of passion in our group, and it was a girls' school. So it
Okay.
was a
Oh,
really
okay.
fun, group of girls who, and beyond this, the two of us, I mean, they're just amazing. One of my dear friends from high school is, her name's Kimmy Alberg. She's, since I've known her, been just a archivist of costumes. She just did a Maddie Secret.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
and
OMG.
I
That's
know.
fucking awesome.
So it's like we have been able to keep a certain amount of this group together. I mean, it is funny when I look at like Maddie Secret is in particular, but just
Speaking of lofty, speaking of the highest execution of the lifetime form.
Exactly.
You guys
And
are really
also,
out here giving the homosexuals everything they want.
there's a yeah, John is unbelievable, and I'm so happy that he has finally directed a movie, because I always felt he was a director, but he there's something about the way, and maybe Ghost World relates to this in a different version, but the way when I watched it, I felt like the way that sincerity and insincerity were playing with each other. It was so interesting because, you know, I mean, he is a master of insincerity, you know, making fun of the smallest things that people do when they're trying to be, you know, just out in the world.
He
normal.
has a savant's ability to send that up. It's unbelievable. Like the observational prowess of John Early in his perceiving humanity is it's intimidating, actually. Like I can't imagine if someone was like, "Oh, this is John Early," I'd be like, "Hi," and I think I'd walk away. I think I would be like too scared to go on.
He's a really sweet like really kind person, but it is, it is, and I think, and Kate Berlant, who's one of my oldest friends who have been talking about, is like that too, where I've seen that ability and language. I mean, remember when they met? It was like someone finally coming in that actually spoke her exact language.
It's amazing.
Which has been amazing to see. But yeah, I just mentioned that because of Kimmy, but so I think there was a lot of just that mix of feeling just that, like there was a lot of passion, and I think that's, I love that scene in Ghost World when he's in the hospital and their problem resolves so quickly through the drawings. It's like you think it's going to be, I have to explain, I was so cruel at you, you know, I called your date number, and it's when you see how she's drawn him, you understand everything, and he understands it, and it's so beautiful and universal, because those are gorgeous drawings. I think those are Crumb's daughter did the whole Notebook. I love what that says about art, I guess.
And the point you make about the sincerity, the way that we did cynicism in the night, like pump up the volume, like we mentioned Reality Bites, like that kind of corporate sellout. Like I was just looking at a clip of Reality Bites the other day that's like, all the good themes have been explored and turned into theme parks, man. Like over his like ham radio broadcast as a 16-year-old or something. Yeah. And yet, like, I think what I couldn't process when I watched this when I was young, and I was like, no, not for me, was all I felt was the cynicism. And then watching it now, like I see the conversation between her forced cynicism, like her performance of cynicism in many ways, and then the pure sincerity of Steve Buscemi's entire presence in this movie.
Exactly.
And like as a grown-up, like that, like I feel that balance, and it's just like, and to what you're saying with like Maddie's Secret, it feels like, I remember when I saw the trailer, I was like, this feels like a stunt trailer that cannot be a real movie. And then the interesting parts of the online discourse that I saw, like once it was coming out and people started seeing it, of like, oh, this is just for fun, it's just silly. And then some people being like, this is a satire, and some people like, no, it's totally genuine. And like the argument around that being like, God, John Early, like the layers within that narrative to get people talking like that. And that reminds me of my feeling of watching Ghost World this time, when it has been years and years. I haven't watched it in forever because I like have kind of avoided it. But it was like, I was so dazzled now by like the deep sincerity and feeling of this movie. And like, wow, they really pulled this off in an amazing way.
Yeah. And because it's trifold. I mean, or, you know, there's layers to, yes, they're seeing things through this lens. People are, you know, they're being judgmental. But there is bullshit everywhere you look. They're right about a lot of the things.
Yeah.
You know,
now more than ever.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like, and it's only gotten worse. It's crazy when you look around and see how the concept of selling out doesn't even exist anymore.
It's like a career path now.
Yeah,
like there's
even,
curriculum built around that for people to take and do.
Yeah, it's not even part of the discussion really at all. And to put all that complication, I think, on a young girl and one who can't be pinned down. That's what I like about Enid. I almost, you know, I think there's a funny moment where they're like, oh, are you a punk or whatever? Because she's wearing her thing. And she's like, no, this is a throwback to a really specific punk era, which I know nothing about. But it's like, I think you could easily see that and think, oh, that's about like punk girls of the time. And it's like, she's trying on a million costumes.
Yeah.
In the thing. She's exploring a million different little like niche things about this world, and she isn't easy to completely simplify, even in the world that is very simplified in this beautiful way. So I think that's and I just think Thora Birch, I mean, talk about all of those girls. I mean, we were really lucky. I think Thora Birch, Christina Ricci, Gabby
that whole
Hoff,
Now and Then collective, man.
Also Janine Garofalo, but before that, I think that there was a lot of that presence of even if some was more just through the roles they chose. There was like there was a really great. I mean, Winona Ryder, I guess, is both because she's an on as well, but it's like there was
Chloe
that.
Sevigny.
Oh,
like,
exactly. Every time
Natasha Lyonne.
Yeah, these
Melanie Linsky. The 90s alt girl.
Melanie
the 90s
Linsky.
alt it girl.
Yeah, just this kind of, there was a boldness and they felt very strong, which was, I don't know who that is now, or if people even, maybe they don't want it, but
well, it's such an
it feels
like,
missing.
Yeah, it's such a, because like we're, even people who do feel so genuine or authentic in their presences, like branding is such a gargantuan concept now. And it seems like even as stars are obviously stars are participating in their own branding, but even ones that don't feel like they're hitting you over the head with it, like I find Zendaya to be an incredibly authentic and genuine presence, but like the idea of Zendaya is a thing as much as the person of Zendaya, and that has always been true, but now there are so many more commercial expressions and externalizations of that, where like who can be alt if alt is a brand identity, right? Like what is outside the mainstream, if to be outside the mainstream is also a desirable brand impression, right?
And I think there's something about the way, I mean, about what movies are getting made, who's being cast in them. I mean, Thora Birch is a very strong, like I was in an audition I wasn't the assistant, but I was in the room when she came in for something not that long, maybe 10 years ago. And she is as strong and present as, like, you know, she was being asked to do something she didn't want to do. And she was like, I'm not doing that. It was just like, And it wasn't scary. It was more like, there are 5 scenes, you have to do this big crying one. She was like,
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to do that. I'll do the other ones,
Uh-huh.
and you just go, yeah, that's why she pops in these movies. She feels authentic.
Hmm.
Um, it's because they're casting people are like Heather Matarazzo. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's so authentic. I love that movie. It's just a trickle down that's
Hmm.
happening. Like, all the money is coming from different places and it's being put in different ways. But I hope there's some kind of return.
Well, okay, just briefly to the point of Thora Birch, did you see Chronology of Water?
I haven't yet, but I'm glad she's in that.
She's a small supporting role that is so captivating in her scenes. And I went to a Q&A with the premiere week that Kristen Stewart did at the Lemley
Cool.
over on the way to Santa Monica, and a little past the one past the New Art. Hi, LA geographer, everybody. The Californians is a bit that extends in many forms of nuance. But she was doing a Q&A, and the only other person there with Q&A for was Thora Birch. And
No.
here, like, her like grounding
Yeah.
gravitas next to Kristen Stewart was almost like kind of startling. And the way Kristen Stewart talked about her as like a tour de force was like
Yeah.
more public conversations in front of Thora Birch
Yeah, exactly.
about how wonderful she is.
Yeah. I hope there are a lot of great future roles for her, because she's she's very unique in our culture, I think.
I agree. And then we're getting down toward the end, and there was something that I wanted to bring up. I rarely pull like a quote that I read about her, but I was reading about Late Fame, and it was
Yeah.
on an IndieWire post. It seemed like they kind of got like some preview access, and
Yeah.
they were saying on Late Fame, Birch's signature biting wit, and then I do a little dot dot dot. It borders on an even sicker sense of humor. Like, so we have this publication, biting wit, and like going like capable of bordering on this even sicker threshold of sense of humor, and mentioning like Welcome to the Dollhouse, Heather Matarazzo, very funny. You're talking about that ghost world, like that humor really appealing to you. Talking about the humor of something where one wouldn't necessarily on the surface assume the humor to be found in a May-December concept. Clearly, in Late Fame, this is being remarked upon. I just wanted to hear about your sense of humor as a screenwriter, and where like that kind of humor that really hits a sweet spot for you, and like where that started forming for you, if perhaps the biting wit and even sicker notion of ascending to new heights of humor sickness, and coming that as like a product of like these kinds of movies that we've talked about today.
I mean, absolutely. That it's very nice. I mean, I think, but everything.
Do your friends call you a
think
sicko,
I've
Sammy?
written.
Are they like known sicko, Samy Burch?
No, but one time I had a really funny. I went to a general meeting, or like really early on, with, I don't even want to say the company, but kind of like a
Fair.
kind of a famous scuzzy company. And I
Yeah.
was sitting in the
They're out
thing,
there.
and the guy came in, and he's the head guy, and he came in and he said, "You're a sicko,"
What?
because of the script I read.
At a
And I was
famously
just like,
scuzzy company, that would feel so weird.
I know, it was
especially.
actually really funny, but I was just like, I'm actually very nice. But no, I don't know. I think everything I was always writing in college, I think up, I think I started in what would be classically said as dark comedy.
Okay,
That was, I think Todd Solondz
for sure.
was very big for me.
Okay.
I think but everything that came out in that time was so funny. The dramas are so funny. Boogie Nights is so funny. Everything had both, which was, I think, what made that period really, really why we looked to it, I think. And so I think testing those waters, I mean, I've certainly written dark comedies about very dark things that are just previous, specs. And as I've continued, the humanity grows maybe in each attempt, just because I think that's just a natural way. But I think if that is, probably some indication of the way I am walking through the world, which most people, have um, different levels of what is funny and what is morbid and what you can make a joke about. And I do probably have that, but no, that was the only time I've been called a sicko, but um, um, but yeah, that's interesting to me. And I mean, certainly I don't, late fame
You still got it. You still got it. They're remarking on it with late fame. Still got it.
Yeah, that is, I think, there's wit is a really nice, and I think a lot of it was borrowed from Arthur Schnitzer, but it I think that the ways in which people can be uncomfortable
sure.
is definitely present in the movie. There's a lot of scenes that are hopefully uncomfortable, even if the stakes are not, they're not sick. They're not that sick. It's just socially. That is interesting to me. Yeah.
Okay, well, on our way out, I want to make sure you did mention another movie, another character, and I don't want to. It feels rude to gloss over, but also to say to mention Steve Buscemi, kind of like the platonic ideal of like a middle-aged man. Also, another platonic ideal of the middle-aged man, Albert Brooks.
Yeah.
And you mentioned just defending your life. So I wanted to hear about a woman watching cinema, just connecting with Albert Brooks.
I can't imagine not connecting with Albert Brooks ultimately. I love that movie. I mean, obviously he's just so charming. It's almost too much of a self-compliment to relate. But I think that movie I really related to because of the sort of bigger ideas of fear being, trying to get over fear being the goal of one's life on Earth. I think it's just so clever and something I deal with quite a lot. But I think maybe that's a broader take on the question. But no, I mean he's prophetic. Everything he's ever done has come true, and I've always hoped maybe defending your life will continue that pattern in the afterlife, because I do think it's a great idea.
All right, well, I wanted to at least give it a shout out to the themes that we've talked about. It feels like Albert Brooks feels apropos to these notions of sort of like the social discomfort and the mastery of execution within something that in less capable hands in that way could totally bomb. Like it really feels like an Albert Brooks performance can't be replaced by someone else.
Exactly.
Like he's like a genre unto himself. Yes.
Yeah.
And as are you, Samy Burch, known sicko Samy Burch. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, to come on this show and be called a known sicko.
Thank you so much. It was fun to talk about Ghost World. I hope everybody who hasn't seen it goes and sees it. It's on Criterion right now.
This really feels like it, like for the burgeoning Gen Z cinephiles that are the buoy of the theatrical experience right now, and clearly like loving movies and finding movies. I hope someone on TikTok starts cutting up Ghost World in such a way.
The Letterboxd is not. I don't think it's what it should be. I think it's underrated right now. I think it's been taken over by a group that doesn't get it. So I encourage everyone to go and make that right.
Okay, well, I mean, if you haven't seen May December, you should obviously watch that Academy Award nominated film. If you haven't seen Ghost World, you should watch that and be ready for late fame. And you know what? As of this conversation today, which is the 31st of July, Maddie's Secret is available on digital.
Oh yeah, go watch that. You really should.
So we can plug all kinds of cinema here today. Thank you so much, Samy Burch, for bringing such a great library of conversation topics.
Oh, thank you. It was really nice.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
Supported
directly
by you.